Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of All Queued at the review podcast tied to streaming services like Netflix, Amazon Prime, HBO Max, Disney Plus, etc., etc., etc. I'm your host, Greg Dietz. With me always is Maya Don Fisher. How's your week been?
Pretty fucking fabulous.
Good.
Pretty good, as Larry David would say. Um, got we had D&D, our Monday and Tuesday night sessions this week. Both were a lot of fun.
Both were very good, yeah.
Um, Yesterday, Wednesday, as of recording this, I got a figure that I had on pre-order for well over a year from Sideshow Collectibles. It's an Eric Draven Crow figure. Has multiple hands, multiple guns. Has the golden engagement ring on a string around his neck. Uh, all leather, like leather and cloth actual clothing. Because these are high dollar fucking pieces. Fortunately they do payment plans, so I didn't have to dump all $300+ in one go.
Yeah.
Or I just wouldn't have it. But yeah, I got that thing in yesterday, and it's fucking gorgeous. I love it. But yeah. Things have been going nice and smooth. Been playing and learning Overwatch 2. Getting better. Learning things here and there, thanks to your advice and tips and stuff. And
Yeah.
I'll continue to get better and branch out some more. But yeah, things are good. How's your week been?
It's been all right. So, um, I kind of told you what happened on Monday. So right after our D&D campaign, which went great, I had a great time. I was like, that was fucking genuinely fun. Um, uh, I leave my room, or I'm starting to leave my room, and I notice there is um, there's like a string of water coming into my room on the carpet. Like,
Oh
it
no.
just looks like soaked carpet, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, why is this a thing? And I have to go pee real bad. So I open the door and I see that there's like a bunch of water in the hallway on the carpet. Now it's not flowing water; it's just soaked carpet, and I like very soaked. And I look into the bathroom and I notice that it's flooding. Like somebody was in there. Well, it's my just to nip that in the bud. It was my dad. Um, and he is like he's just in there, and I hear a lot of knocking around. And what that tells me is that he's trying to clean up, right? Like something happened. Now, just for context purposes in this story, my toilet is somewhat old. Like we've lived in this house or this apartment for since I was in 8th grade. So we've been in this apartment for a long time.
So age of 13 roughly to now.
Yes.
So 26 years.
Yeah, give or take, yeah. That toilet has been this entire time. It's never been replaced. There's been things in this house that have been replaced. But back when I was that young, one of the mistakes I made was just flushing the toilet and walking away. To which I hear my dad scream and yell and come upstairs, and I was like, oh, fuck, this sucks. What happened was that the water had seeped through the floor and gone into our kitchen, which caused us to have to clean up a ton. We had a guy come in and he put a bunch of seals in the bathroom and a bunch of seals on the floor. We cleaned everything up. Everything was fine. Well, I see the mess that was left by my dad, right? Keep in mind, I have to pee real bad. And we have one bathroom in this apartment. I go downstairs to see what's going on with mom because she's not doing it. She's just sitting there. And she goes, we're going to have to clean all the fucking dishes. And I was like, what, why? And she goes, go look. And I go into the kitchen and she's just placed pans everywhere where water's dripping through the fucking floor.
Ugh.
And I'm like, why the fuck did this happen? How did it get this bad? Now, keep in mind, remember what I said about the toilet being old? It
Yeah.
has always had a clogging issue. Like, since we moved in. It's never been a good toilet. Like, I don't want to go too much into detail, but I'll say, like, I've had a soft serve type poop, you know, something that could easily go down, and it's clogged the toilet. So we have a plunger on hand. Like, it's always ready to go because of that reason.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there trying to figure out, why does Dad flood the bathroom at least every other week? Why does this happen so often to him? Right? Well, I figured it out. He's not standing up to flush the toilet. He does what he calls a courtesy flush because it clogs so easily. So he figures one thing at a time, obviously wasting a ton of water in the process, but that's how it overflows. This particular night, it overflowed. He didn't notice it until it started flowing on the floor under him. His legs barely work. He had a really hard time standing up. So by the time he stood up and turned around, it was real bad.
Ugh.
And like I said, it seeped through the floor. It went into the kitchen. Like the carpet, I'm going to work more on the carpet today. Like we have a shampooer in the house, and I could only do so much night one. It was really bad, Maya. Like, so right after D&D Monday night, I told Dad, I was like, because Mom was like, tell Dad you have to go pee. So I run upstairs and I'm like, Dad, I have to go to the bathroom really bad. I need you to get the fuck out of the bathroom. I will take care of it. I just need to pee, and then I'm going to take care of everything. He goes, I don't want you to do it by yourself. I was like, go downstairs and watch the fucking Raiders game. I will take care of this. So for the next hour and a half, I was just cleaning. I had to clean the whole kitchen, all the dishes in that particular set of cupboards.
Yeah.
The floor, the fucking counter, like everything had to be cleaned.
That sucks.
It was pretty fucking bad. And so I told Dad, I don't want an apology. I don't want a thank you. I just want you to promise me that you're not going to fucking do courtesy flushes ever again. You're not going to start flushing that toilet until you are standing above it.
I mean, what's the point of a courtesy flush when it's just you? Who are you being courteous to? A courtesy flush is for a public restroom.
I think in his mind, he's calling it a courtesy flush, but what he's doing is like one thing in the toilet bowl at a time can easily be flushed versus just. But I'm like, that never matters. Like I said, I've watched that thing clog with things in that can go easily down that drain. Like, it's a bad toilet. But this explains why he was flooding the bathroom frequently.
That sucks.
So it was a lot, dude. I was like, so right after that, Tuesday rolls around and I had to wash like a bunch of fucking clothes that got soaked. And then what else did I do Tuesday? And then I just spent most of the day playing Overwatch 2. Because I've been really digging it. But
yeah, we played it for a little while.
The other thing I did this week was because nothing happened yesterday and nothing's happened. Like, I worked. I had a moment on Saturday at work where I kind of went off a little bit. So this Friday, this woman calls and says, I have a 26-footer to pick up. If you guys haven't figured it out, I work at a place that rents out U-Haul trucks. It's not a U-Haul center. It just rent them out. The guy that I work for gets like 10% or 15% of every rental. It's a thing. Anyway, so she calls on Friday evening or closer to the time we close. And she was like, hey, I have a 26-footer to pick up tomorrow. Like, am I in the system? Well, she was. She was in our system. It said that she was scheduled to pick one up on Saturday at like 9 a.m. And I went, okay, you're here. And I told her that. She calls around 11 a.m. on Saturday, wanting to push it back to noon, that she wasn't going to be there on time. I said, that shouldn't be a problem. Let me go into the system. Her name was gone. Just gone. What ended up happening was that U-Haul's traffic department went, okay, that can be moved. We're going to move that to a different location and then give somebody who's technically closer to our facility the 26-footer. So I try to explain this to her. She gets all pissy, just super angry about it. I called yesterday to verify. I was like, yes, it was there. I'm telling you that it was there. It's not there anymore. And there's nothing I can do because we don't have any 26-footers. They are all gone for the day. And she goes, well, she started demanding that we go to the Floor and Road store and bring one to the facility we're at. And I explained to her, I was like, ma'am, we are not a U-Haul center. We are a, there's a name for what we are.
You're a third-party contractor for U-Haul, essentially.
Yeah. And I explained that to her, and she's like, I don't care. You're a representative for U-Haul. And I was like, I'm not really a representative for U-Haul. I said, we just rent out the trucks. I can see the system because we're in it, but there's nothing I can do. I said, I can give you the number to our traffic department and you can give them a call and see what's going on with that. And she was like, I'm not calling another fucking number. I'm going to, and she just would not stop. She's like, I don't want to pay for gas. I don't want to pay for mileage. This is an inconvenience to me. I'm trying to help people who are here from damage with Hurricane Ian. And I'm just like, that's on the other side of the fucking country. What are you doing? Who are you helping in California with a U-Haul truck? Like, genuinely confused about what the fuck she's talking about there. Because I'm sitting there thinking, like, the only thing that she could have done was that they brought all of their stuff to California, but now we're in a place where they need a U-Haul to move it to another location. Weird. Wouldn't you just bring it to the original place? Anyway. So she's going off in my ear, and I'm trying to explain to her the details. I'm trying to do best customer service as I can with what capability I can do. And she's demanding that I do all this stuff that I don't have access to. I don't have the ability to do. Our traffic department does, but I don't. Meanwhile, I got my boss, Steve, in my ear telling me what to say. You know?
Well, his advice, I mean, I know he's been in the game longer than you, but let's be fair. From the stories you've told me, his customer service record is not admirable.
Oh, it's terrible. It's fucking terrible. So what he wants me to do is just say, ma'am, here's the number to our department. Like, even if she's still talking, I say it and then I hang up. I just hang up the call.
Yeah, in situations like that, you have to. I've been there before.
So, but what I'm trying to do in the situation is get her to understand. Now, if she continued to do this, I would have eventually hung up. I would have eventually stopped the call and just hung up. But what I had was Steve in this ear, just telling me what to say, constantly telling me, just say this and hey, and I'm trying to hear her. And at that point, after 10 minutes of this, it was too much. It was just straight up too much. I can handle a lot of customer service bullshit. I've been doing customer service. It's pretty much my entire job. Like, I've never not had a customer service job. That was too much. So I literally took the phone away from my head, proceeded to hand it to Steve, and I just said very loudly, I'm so fucking frustrated, and I handed it to him. And he just says, ma'am, there's nothing we can do. It's out of our hands. Our traffic department number gives it the traffic department number. Have a good day, and just hangs up the phone. Somebody else calls back. He takes the phone and he says, U-Haul, can I help you? And it's some guy. And he was claiming that I cussed at her. And Steve goes, he didn't cuss at her. He cussed in frustration. That wasn't directed at her. He just said he was fucking frustrated. That's all he said. And he goes, our traffic number is da-da-da-da-da. Have a good day, and hangs up. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, U-Haul's going to get mad at Steve. This is going to be a problem. But Steve had my back, oddly enough. He was just like, no, that shit sucks. Like, you handle that as best you could. And I said, Steve, I'm gonna be honest with you. The reason that I got so fucking frustrated, the reason that I did that was because I had you in my ear while I had her in the other ear. I said it was too much. It just kept happening and happening and happening and happening until that bottle overflowed. And he goes, I got you. And I said, that was the only reason that I blew up. I said, her getting upset and saying what she was saying, I said, I could handle that. I knew what to do. But you telling me what to do as if I was still brand spanking new was kind of too much. And he goes, I got you. He goes, I was just trying to help you out. He goes, I've been here for a long time. I've dealt with people like this. You just have to give them the number and hang up. I said, I got you. I understand that. And I'll do that next time. But, I was trying to help her out. I was trying to give her the information, but she just wouldn't stop. So he goes, just take a breather. What you need to do is go into the system, go to her account. Do you have her contract number? I said, yes, I do. And he goes, because I got her number and pulled up her contract number. He goes, you need to put a note in her things telling exactly what happened. So I did. We got a call from the AFM, or the area field manager. And he's like, don't worry about it. Like, traffic's going to do whatever they can to help her out. But at the end of the day, like, that situation sucked. And your worker wasn't, your worker didn't know what was going on. He wasn't prepared. And Steve goes, it's not that he wasn't prepared. It's that she just wouldn't let him speak. She just wouldn't listen to him. So that was that. We never heard from her again. We never got a knock on our shit. So whatever. But, yeah, that one was rough.
And it wouldn't have been so bad had she not been raising her voice and just running in circles.
Yeah, like that's what made it honestly really bad, is that she was just demanding shit that I can't do. I don't have access to that stuff. We don't have access to that stuff. Like, that's something that traffic has to do. Like, I'm sorry that you have to call another department entirely to get it situated, but that's it. Like, I'm sorry. That's all we can do. Bye. And I was really trying to get to that point, but I'm not calling another department. Like, oh my God. I can't call them for you. Sorry.
Yeah. And that's something for our listeners. We, hopefully, I know customer service situations can be very frustrating. Just always remember, 98% of the time, it's just somebody on the other end doing their job, and they're at their limits of what they can do, and they're just trying to help. Don't take it out on that individual. Sure, you can be upset, but the individual isn't the one that caused it.
That's just it. Also, like, when you're talking to somebody who's working at a department and you're upset about something, keep your calm, because that person also understands that you're frustrated and angry. Like, I understood her positioning. She called Friday and verified that it was in our system, that she was picking it up at our location. Why traffic moved it, God fucking only knows. But they did. And now it's out of our hands. So her getting pissed off at me as if I had the capability of moving her back or doing something to help her out, I don't. And if the person on the other end says, I don't have access to that, but I know who does, let me get them for you, or let me give you the number to call them, just accept it. Because they're not lying to you. They're not just trying to get you off the phone. At least for the most part, they're not. I can tell you right now that if you go to a department store and you ask the worker there, like, can you go check the back? They don't have the product. If it's not out on the sales floor, they don't have it. Straight up. Not that this is the same situation, but because I can't count how many times I got somebody going, well, check the back. Check the back if it's there. You know what happens when you ask a worker to go check the back?
They go to the bathroom.
Not I just go walk back there for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, talk to somebody, and then walk back out with nothing.
Oh, I've done that too.
Like, it's like people don't realize that that's what retail work is. It's you have to lie to people more often than not because people don't get it. So many people just don't understand. Like obviously this situation was a bit different, because there's an added element of my boss, but um there are so like countless times I have had someone just be a complete piece of shit and not care. So it's like also if somebody if you ask if there's a discount of some kind that a person that you can get in a store, and the person that you've asked says nothing that I know of, stop pestering them about a fucking discount. It doesn't exist. You know what U-Haul doesn't have? Discounts for military or seniors. They don't have it. It doesn't exist. And if it does, they've never told us.
Yeah.
So, but and that's happened too many times too. Like even when I was working DoorDash, you have those customers that like to kind of be shitty. One of the things that people were doing for a long time with DoorDash, I don't know how often that's happening now. I imagine it's still happening, but their food would get there. Then they would call or contact DoorDash and say their food never arrived, getting a refund. The problem is that when that happens, it then goes back onto the worker. And they don't know it. They don't realize that they don't care. So just if you're going to consume, be a better consumer. That's all. But anyway, the other thing I want to talk about very briefly, because we took up a lot of time on the podcast talking about that shit. I did watch something that I would suggest everybody watch if you're into the MCU. If you like to keep up with the MCU and you want to know where characters are coming from and who they are and all that kind of jazz, watch Werewolf by Midnight.
I thought it was Werewolf by Night.
It is Werewolf by Night. I keep saying Midnight. It introduces a couple somewhat important characters to from Marvel Comics into the MCU. 3 characters to be very specific. So I won't tell you who, but
yeah, I need to check it out. I just haven't made time for it yet.
Some of these characters I have watched. Some of these characters I have read in comics interact with certain characters that are my favorites. I've seen one of them interact with Doctor Strange quite a bit. I've seen one of them interact with like when Spider-Man's dealing with Blade and Morbius. So, you want to keep an eye on that kind of stuff because you don't want to just be like, the fuck is this thing? Like out of nowhere. But with that out of the way, yeah, so go check out Werewolf by Night. It's great. It's also really fun to watch. Like it's just a fun little hour, Halloween-y type thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out. Definitely.
Yeah, it's fun. It is mostly in black and white, just FYI. I say mostly because like the last maybe 5 minutes are in color.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But with all that out of the way, we're reviewing 4 things. As if you've been keeping up with the show, we've been doing that for
almost 2 weeks now.
Almost 2 months now. We got Rings of Power episode 7. We got House of the Dragon episode 8. We got Andor episode 6, and She-Hulk finale. We're gonna go backwards on this.
Oh shit, we are.
You were not ready to go backwards, were you?
I mean, I just have to go from right to left instead of left to right on my tabs.
Well, the reason I want to go, here's the thing. I thought we'd start with She-Hulk, go Andor, House of the Dragon, Rings of Power, right?
Okay.
But realistically speaking, it doesn't matter because we're going to have a lot to talk about with each episode.
That's true.
So, I just want to talk about She-Hulk real bad.
All right, so episode 9 is titled "Whose Show Is This?" and it opens up with an awesome fucking sequence that is set like the original Incredible Hulk TV show, Bill Bixby style, from back in the late 70s, early 80s. Uh, but it's, obviously about She Hulk, which was just great.
Yeah.
And then she wakes up. Apparently, she was dreaming, and she is in the damage control custody and is being forced to wear an inhibitor as part of a plea deal to prevent her from turning into She Hulk, and loses her job at GOK and H. So
So I don't think that was an inhibitor preventing her from becoming She-Hulk. I think that was a detection device if she did become She-Hulk.
yeah, it was probably was. Um, she loses her apartment. She moves back in with her parents. Her life's falling apart. So she decides to go to Emil Blonsky's retreat to seek advice after failing to gather information on intelligentsia and the Hulk King. So while she is traveling to Blonsky's retreat, Nikki successfully receives an invite from the Hulk King to join a private gathering after she uploaded a private video of Jennifer in her college days doing, just embarrassing college kid stuff. And she asks Pug to infiltrate the event. Pug attends the gathering, which also is taking place at Blonsky's retreat, and they learn that Todd Phelps is the Hulk King. Jen arrives at the retreat and stumbles upon the gathering. Blonsky is also present in his abomination form, acting as a motivational speaker, though oblivious to Intelligentsia's true goals. Jen confronts Phelps, who injects himself with a substance containing her blood, turning himself into a Hulk. A fight ensues as Titania and Bruce Banner Hulk also join in unexpectedly.
Before you say the next
Confused,
part, I literally was watching this with my dad, and I'm sitting there going, "What the fuck is happening?"
I was saying that too. Confused by what is happening in the scene, Jen breaks the fourth wall and actually confronts the writers of the show. Uh, she walks into the writers' room on the Marvel Studios properties. It's like, hey, what are we all thinking? What's going on here? You know, obtaining the blood. It's so super soldier serum. Come on, shit like that. She's like, I want. Who made this decision? And they're like, oh, it was Kevin's decision. And we, as the audience, are supposed to assume it's Kevin Feige. And she's like,
Now,
well, I'm going to go talk to Kevin.
I want to point something out about this. Did you watch with subtitles
I
on?
watched with subtitles, and yes, it was K period, E period, V period, I
I
period,
was I
N
was
period.
looking at that, just going like, "What the fuck? What the fuck? Why is it abbreviated? I don't understand what's going on. This is amazing." And every time she'd say Kevin, it was a
It was
name.
just a normal name, Kevin.
I was like,
But
"That's
when
clever."
anybody else said it, it was the capitalized fucking uh, initials. So she barges into Kevin's office. Kevin is an artificial intelligence claiming to be in charge of all Marvel Cinematic Universe storyline decisions. Jen persuades Kevin to rewrite the climax of the episode, to which it reluctantly agrees. Upon returning to the show, she finds that Todd Phelps and Emil Blonsky have both been arrested. Blonsky for violating his parole, and Phelps for doxing, essentially. Jen returns home to celebrate with her family, and also Daredevil, just because, that was great.
She says a line in that's so fucking funny, where she was like, "Hulk smashes Bruce smashes buildings. I smash fourth walls and
And
plot lines."
occasionally Daredevil.
Well, no, what she says is, she goes, "And sometimes Matt Murdock." That's
Yeah,
how she said it, which made it even fucking better.
yeah. Basically, she returns home. She's celebrating with her family at a barbecue. Matt's there. And then Bruce returns from Sakaar and introduces his son Scar, which was pretty awesome. Then sometime later, she's regained her job. She's attending a court case against Phelps, vows to continue her work as both a lawyer and a superhero. And then we see in a post-credit scene, Wong shows up and breaks Blonsky out of prison and takes him to Kamartaj. He's like, "Is there Wi-Fi?" "Oh yeah, there's Wi-Fi." He's like, "Is there a fridge?" He's like, "Well, it's kind of a shared thing." It's just cool little banter. So Blonsky violated parole, but went back to prison, but he's still
Well, they
free and
even
he's hanging out with Wong.
in that post credit scene, they even break the fourth wall a little bit,
Yeah,
which is pretty
yeah.
great.
He's like, "Oh, did you get another show?"
Like, no,
This
we're
was
in
a
the peak
lot
of TV
of
right now.
this was a lot of fun.
I mean, that's She-Hulk's comics in a nutshell. They're just meant to be fun. What I think is so great about the show's breaking the fourth wall is it did it exactly like it does in the comics.
Yeah.
There are a
She
lot.
has confronted, John Byrne wrote a bulk of the comics in the 80s. She would confront Byrne and call him. She's like, "Hey, Byrne, what gives with this? Why are you making me do this?" Stuff like that.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a callback to her actually confronting the writer in the comics back in the 80s.
Well, and like a lot of people would sit there and be like, "I've read She-Hulk comics. I don't remember her breaking the fourth wall." Well, she didn't do it as much in the like late '90s as she did in the late '80s and early '90s. But she would still do it.
Yeah.
It depends on who's writing it, but to me, that's something about her character that has always been the most fun is her breaking the fourth wall. But what's great about breaking the fourth wall outside of the obvious is that when she would break the fourth wall in the comics, she would literally rip panels off. There was a villain that she was fighting where she was tired of his bullshit, so she just literally rips the panel off the fucking page and throws it into a trash can and then lights the trash can on fire. Like,
Yeah.
her breaking, like, it going to the fucking menu screen for Disney Plus, the Marvel section of Disney Plus to be specific.
Yep.
And her kicking her own panel out and then kicking down, like, her doing that was so fucking comic book accurate. I was giddy.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying to Misty this morning. This is the most faithful adaptation of comic to screen material that we've ever gotten. Like,
Yeah.
nothing has come as close as this. And of course, neckbeards are gonna fucking hate it.
Well, I
Let
mean,
them fucking hate it.
they're directly also making fun of them. Before the massive fourth wall break sequence, there's the scene where they figure out who Intelligentsia is and they get in there and like they're directly making fun of them.
Yep.
And like full on South Park making fun of them. It's fucking fantastic. And of course they're gonna get mad. Of course they're gonna be pissed off at that because they're the butt of the fucking joke. They are the like fanboys are the worst. And here's the thing is that I've seen a lot of people already on Twitter say like, "Oh, well, She-Hulk never made fun of the fans." Yes,
Yeah,
the
she
fuck she
did.
did.
Hey, incels are gonna incel. What can I say?
True. But like, and that's the thing about She-Hulk too, is that she also made like people like, how are they gonna sit there and make fun of the writing of the Marvel movies and its own show? And I'm like, do you just not pay attention? Do people just not pay attention?
They don't.
I mean, yes, I know the answer to that question, but yeah, that's like, to me, that's what I always loved about the She-Hulk comics was that it ultimately just never really gave a shit. They just did what they wanted to do because it was funny. It was fun. John Byrne said in an interview a long time ago, the reason that I go to the extent of making She-Hulk the way that I made her was because people weren't taking her seriously to begin with. Even back in the 80s when she was created, before she broke the fourth wall, you got a lot of letters at Marvel talking about how it's just a woman version of the Hulk and yada, like the same shit you're seeing right now on social media with
She didn't earn it.
Yeah. And so John Byrne was like, I'm gonna make fun of these fucking idiots.
Yep.
And he did. And that's the thing is people go, well, Stan Lee would have hated it. Stan Lee fucking loved She-Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely adored She-Hulk. Even claiming it was one of his favorite comics to read.
Yeah. And people were like so mad over her twerking back in that one scene. Stan Lee would be rolling over in his grave. Yeah, he created Stripperella. Huh. So
But
settle down.
but within the episode, like her going into the writer's room was so fucking funny. Also, they had a woman playing I can't remember her first name, the main writer, Gao. The fuck's her first name?
Oh, I closed my tab out, or I'd tell you.
I had it in my head a minute ago, but yeah, her last name is
Uh,
Gao, and she
Jessica Gao.
Jessica Gao. Thank you. Yeah, they had a woman playing Jessica Gao, and I was like, that's fucking funny, because that's the thing about this. It's not our world's Marvel.
Yeah.
It's still the MCU's Marvel Studios, which is fucking meta and hilarious. But yeah, and I can't speak highly enough of this. Episode's perfect. Everything, every joke that landed. She even mentions the fucking X-Men.
Yes. She's like, when are we getting the X-Men? And they give a thumbs up and a wink to the camera.
He's like, I can't tell you that.
Oh.
So, like, it's so fucking refreshing to have a show that understands what the comic was. At least one run of the comic, I should say. And I do fucking love how it just pisses off the fucking incel armies. That's oh so satisfying.
Oh, yeah. So, speaking of satisfying, what grade would you give this?
A+. An easy A+. I mean, for me, it turns into what got me into She-Hulk in the first place. Like, you know, I've always had a crush on She-Hulk, right? It was like her and Rogue, and
a lot of green there and boobies. A lot of green and a lot of boobies.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I can see it.
But what made me love She-Hulk's comics so much fun, because like she would show up in other comics that I read. I didn't know who she was until I think she just teamed up with the Fantastic Four.
She became a member of the Fantastic Four for years when after Secret Wars.
Yeah.
And, because the Thing got his own solo title and was off planet.
Yeah, because they needed that muscle. But yeah, that's when I found out who she was. I started reading Sensational She-Hulk, and I loved it. Like, I remember thinking it was so fucking funny, and that like all the fourth wall breaks were great. And also, I was at that age where like this was the early 2000s, so I'm reading a comic series that's old as shit. And like, and I remember her when she broke the fourth wall for the first time. I was surprised by that. I didn't understand what was happening. And so when like it continued, I was just like, oh, she's talking directly. That's so fucking funny. I think that's probably why I love fourth wall breaks. I also want to make a point here. If your critique of the show is, I don't like the fourth wall breaking mechanic, that's fine. That's one of the things that my dad can't stand about Deadpool. Like, he doesn't like fourth wall breaking. There was a show that the sitcom, because my parents love sitcoms. And there was a sitcom they were watching with Maya Balik, the girl that was
Blossom.
Thank you. I couldn't remember the show. I know she did a show when I was younger, but where the show would literally pause and she would face the camera and break the fourth wall and talk directly to the audience. My dad hated that. It wasn't that it wasn't funny. He just doesn't enjoy fourth wall breaking stuff in shows. So if that's your complaint, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not your bag. If your complaint about the show is that the CGI not being finished is off-putting, that's a legit complaint. I understand that. Like, Scar didn't look his best. But, you know, one thing the show does that, or this particular episode did, that was really clever in regards to that is it made fun of how Marvel handles its VFX department. There's literally a line where he makes a comment about how she's very expensive and that she needs to transform off camera. because the VFX department's already moved on. And then you hear the Wakanda theme for like a second.
I didn't pick up on that.
Oh yeah, you hear like if you watch the scene again, you hear drums. Like yeah. There are a ton of little jokes like that are so fucking smart. And people are like, oh, it's not funny. Well, if it's not funny to you, it's funny to a lot of other people. Like, and I think I've said this to you, Maya, 1,000 times. My brother, Josh, does not like She-Hulk. When I was reading She-Hulk, he couldn't stand it. He just didn't enjoy it. He even said to me very recently, before She-Hulk had aired, like, I'm not watching it. I was like, then don't. Like, I've never been upset with him for not wanting to watch She-Hulk. So if you're watching this show and you're hating it, why are you continuing to watch it? Just for that quick reference to, Scar or Daredevil or something like that? Well, you're torturing yourself. You're just making it worse for yourself and no one else. But for me, for other people, this was perfect. For the writers of She-Hulk, the comics, I love this show. A lot of them have spoken publicly about how great this show is, including Steve Byrne.
Yeah. I mean, I got to give this episode an A+. It was strong. It was so true to the spirit of the comic, so true to the spirit of the character. Genuinely funny, clever, well done all around. Give me more of this shit in a show. Give me another season of it. I'm ready for it. I enjoyed it very, very much.
I'm glad to hear that, because I know that comedy and superhero stuff isn't always something you enjoy too much. So
it depends on the situation.
Sure. No, I agree.
It depends on the situation. But she's always been more of a comedic thing historically. Well, not like yucks for the sake of yucks. It's clever and it's fourth wall breaks.
I'll say this. I'll make a little bit of a disagreement with you, just because I can. I would argue that she is comedy for the sake of comedy, and I say that only in the context that she. How do I put this nicely? She's meant to be funny. That's why I'm saying that. Like, her comics are meant to be comedy.
Yeah.
And because I always have this argument that, like, I don't like certain games because they're, like, made to be difficult for the sake of being difficult. But for the sake of She-Hulk, I think it's comedy meant to be for the sake of comedy. So, but it does have a message, like good comedy should,
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with that. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Highly recommend it.
Oh my god, highly recommend it. And that's the thing. Like, if you're going into this not knowing what you're getting a comedy show, just flat out. Like, it was like before Ragnarok had come out, and I'm sure you saw this too before seeing Ragnarok, Maya. Was that Taika Waititi was at like an interview, and he was like, people are worried that Thor Ragnarok is going to be a comedy. Is it a comedy? He's like, yes, it's a comedy. I wrote it as a comedy. It's meant to be a comedy. Same for this show, 100%. So go into it expecting a comedy. Whether you find it funny or not, that's your discretion. But it's not meant to be a superhero show. They even make fun of that. Maya. God, I love this show. That's that. I also want to point something out before we continue, before we move on to the next thing. And I've said this on this podcast before, and I'll say it again until I'm blue in the face. Comedy is subjective.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't say that to just be a contrarian. I say that because when talking about comedy, when talking about what comedy is, and if you find something funny or not, when you watch a thing, let's say you watch this new show that just came out, and you go, man, this shit is really funny. And then somebody else goes, this is really bad. This is cringy. It's not funny at all. How could anyone find this funny? That's going to feel like shit. So why do that to somebody else? Why make somebody else feel like shit because you don't find the thing funny? Like, just be cool about it. Just express, I just don't find it funny. It's not my brand. Like we do when it comes to Taika Waititi.
Yeah, yeah. And I've tried and tried. I just can't do it. But I'm
That's
not
fine.
saying he's not talented. He's immensely talented. He's making movies. I'm not.
That doesn't always mean someone should be making movies, but yeah, I get your point.
No, no. But yeah, I mean,
Just
I
be
just
fucking cool about it. Like otherwise, these shows are gonna make fun of you.
exactly. Don't be a neckbeard incel.
Yeah, there you go. All right, let's go ahead and move on to Andor episode 6.
Oh, another fandom that's full of neckbeard incels.
I mean, let's be honest. Fucking
Oh
Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings are having the exact same amount of neckbeards.
yeah, yeah, they are. They are. All right, so this was episode 6 of Andor. It's called The Eye. Oddly enough, episode 7 of Rings of Power is also titled The Eye this week. It's crazy.
What? Really?
Yeah,
Wow. I did not catch that.
I did. I did. So, episode 6 of Andor, The Eye, aided by Gorn, the rebels successfully infiltrate the garrison by posing as an escort squad for Commandant J.r.r, Gorn's superior. They take Behaz's family as hostages and force him to give them access to the garrison's payroll vault. While loading the credits onto an Imperial freighter, they're caught by Imperial forces, and in the ensuing firefight, Terriman and Lieutenant Gorn are killed. Also, Behaz appears to have a heart attack, and you know, Cinta is unable to make it onto the ship because she's the one that has Behaz's family captive in the control room. So the only people to make it on the ship are Cassian, Skeen, Vel, and Nemec. During their escape from Aldani, the cargo of the payroll crushes Nemec as they are trying to make their escape. They land on another planet to treat his injuries, but he succumbs to them. While Vel is looking after Nemec, Skeen proposes to Cassian that they leave Vel behind together and split the payroll between them. Cassian kills Skeen, fearing for his life and disgusted by Skeen's selfishness. He tells Vel about the conversation and informs her that he plans to take his portion of the payroll, the amount that, what's his name, Stellan Skarsgård's character, Luthen.
Luthen, yeah. I was like, fuck, I can't remember.
Luthen Rail. The amount that Luthen had promised him as payment and leave everything else to her. Back on Coruscant, Luthen hears the news of the theft and quietly celebrates.
This show is too much fun.
Oh yeah.
Also, this episode was fucking tense.
I was getting ready to say that exactly. It was very intense. This episode was. The payoff for the slow buildup for the past 2 episodes was there.
Sometimes a show just needs to, needs that build to get there. Like, I know that people are saying that Game of Thrones, that House of the Dragon is also slow, but we'll get to that in this episode. This last episode's great. The same with Andor. Not that I haven't enjoyed any of Andor, because I've enjoyed every episode up to the everything's been great up to this point. Waiting through everything was so fucking worth it with this episode.
Yeah, yeah. And the effects were incredibly well done.
Oh yeah, that fucking
whatever that cosmic that event
shower
was, whatever that event was that was causing it. That was really cool.
Oh yeah.
And then you see a TIE fighter
Very
pursuit when they're trying to make it out with this fucking just very sluggish freighter, and they got these nimble TIE fighters on their asses, and it was intense.
Him getting Was it Namek? What was his name? What was his name?
Nemec.
Namek. Him getting crushed was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like he was such a cool character, and he had such this like positivity about him, and him getting killed was like, oh, I was like, ah. But that's the thing. I think I told my dad. I said that's like this heist is gonna go belly up at some point. Like they're gonna be successful, but it's gonna go belly up, and it did for the most part. And I was like, someone's gonna die, and Dad's like, I don't think anyone's gonna die. And I was like, about that. But yeah, dude, such a fucking great episode. Like, and this, I want to point out that this is my problem with the Obi-Wan show versus Andor. Is both of them are prequels. They take place before the respective story that the character comes from. But my problem with Obi-Wan was that the stakes didn't feel high. This show spent 6 episodes. I guess technically.
Well, the first 3 episodes were him getting away from the planet that he was on. And these past 3 episodes have been him accepting the job and performing the job, building up to the job.
Well, it allowed us to get to know these characters well enough to when they die or when something happens, it's shocking or sad. That's my point, is that
yeah,
Kenobi never took that time. It never gave us characters for that, to be honest. Like, there was nothing consequential, not consequential. Consequence. Yeah, there's no consequences built up in Obi-Wan where there are in Andor. So if you're gonna do a prequel, this to me is how you do it correctly.
I wouldn't even call Obi-Wan a prequel because it takes place in between the prequels and the original trilogy. I'd call it more of a bridge than anything.
We could do what the Borderlands did and call it the pre-sequel.
There we go.
But regardless, like, I say prequel just because, like, we know the fate of all those characters. We only know the fate of one character in the show. I guess technically 2 if you count Mon Mothma. But even in that context, like, sorry about the garbage truck outside my window, which I'm sure
I was wondering what that was.
But even then, she's not such an integral part. She's just there to kind of show what the Senate is doing, like what it's like to, from that perspective. And we don't see her a ton. We've seen her, a grand total of maybe 5 minutes of 6 episodes?
Yeah, not much. Ultimately, she is the leader of the Rebel Alliance, so hopefully we get to see more of that come into play of how she becomes the face of the rebellion.
Yeah. But that's what I love about this show is the stakes feel raised. I was nervous this entire episode because I didn't know who was going to die. I didn't know if they were going to succeed. Like, there were so many aspects to it that I was just like, the only character we know that's making that, this is Andor. That's it. That's fucking it. And I love it. Fucking love that it's doing that.
Yeah.
Well, to make this episode not go, 2 hours, I'm going to go ahead and just give this episode a fucking A+.
All right. Yeah, I mean, there's not much else we can say about it without spoiling the absolute shit out of it, even more than we already have. It's beautifully shot. It's incredibly well acted. It's intense. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. This episode also gets an A+ for me. It's wonderful.
Yep. When I feel like legit anxiety for characters in a show, you've done an excellent job. So, all right. Well, that's Andor. Let's go ahead and move on to House of the Dragon, episode 9.
Episode 8, The Lord of the Tides.
I was reading my next week notes on accident.
Oh, that happens. It happens. So we get yet another time jump, and this is 6 years later.
The biggest time jump we've had, arguably.
No, the one was episode 6 was 10 years after episode 5.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was 10 years. My bad.
But this is the second largest. This one's 6 years. So, all in all, from the very first episode to this episode, it's been 19 or 20 years spanning.
I love it.
Yeah, yeah. So 6 years on, Lord Corlys Valerion, the Lord of Driftmark, is severely wounded fighting in the Stepstones. His brother, Sir Vaemond, petitions King's Landing to name him as Corlys's heir, proclaiming Rhaenyra's son, Lucerys, illegitimate. Rhaenyra and Daemon return to the capital to defend Lucerys' claim. They find King Viserys is bedridden, disfigured, and mentally muddled. Queen Alicent and Sir Otto Hightower now oversee all royal matters. Alicent covers up Prince Aegon raping a handmaiden. Rhaenyra proposes 2 marriage arrangements to gain Princess Rhaenys' support. She also implores Viserys to defend her succession, quoting Aegon the Conqueror's dream about the prince that was promised. As Vaemond's petition is presented at court, Viserys, barely ambulatory, enters the throne room and declares Lucerys the Driftmark heir. Daemon then beheads Vaemond. Well, it didn't quite totally behead him. His lower jaw was left on top of his neck, but the rest of his head, you seen that meme?
Very clean cut. Which meme?
Oh, I'll show you. It's a meme with just the top half of his head. It's fucking awesome. And that's all it is just the top half of his head. Daemon beheads Vaemond when he denounces Rhaenyra as a whore and her children bastards. The family appears to reconcile during a feast, but after Viserys leaves, Aemond incites a fight with insinuations about Rhaenyra's 3 eldest sons' true paternity. Viserys, near death, mutters parts of Aegon the Conqueror's dream, which Alicent believes refers to her son Aegon. Alicent's lady-in-waiting, Tayla, is secretly providing Daemon's former mistress, Mysaria, with information. And yeah, man, they pack a lot into these episodes.
They do, and that's, just like we were talking about with Andor, the show, like, it's given us so much to care about and to accept. To when things happen, you're like, oh, this was fucking fantastic. The whole episode was just so interesting and intricate. It was just, it is convoluted, but in the best way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many little things happening and so many things going on. Like, what is the kid that got his eye taken out?
Aegon.
Okay, I thought it was Aegon. I didn't want to be like Aegon. Like him.
No, not Aegon. Aemond.
Aemond. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was wrong. Aemond becoming like this stoic badass was exactly what I was hoping for. Like, he's a piece of shit. He was a piece of shit when he's a kid. Now he's a piece of shit as like a young adult. And I'm like, that's what I wanted to see. That's and like I want to see Rhaenyra's kids be more. I'm glad that we're seeing them become a better people, than
Alicent's kids.
Yeah, like
she's raising cunts.
Oh yeah.
She herself is one, so.
Well, she became one. Like, she became.
Early on in the series, she was likable, but now she is just downright detestable.
Which is like, and then Daemon, he had a character switch too.
Yeah. I've always liked his character though. Even though, hey, it's still incest, it's gross, but
Well, Oh, sorry. That's Game of Thrones in a nutshell. Like, somebody made a joke online that was like, it was something along the lines of like, Game of Thrones didn't have incest right away, but it got there eventually, and it's better for it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I also love the like slow descent of King Viserys' health.
Oh my god. There ain't much of him left.
Well, he's dead now.
Well, yeah.
Sorry for the spoiler for shows that we're talking about in the middle of the season.
Like, when they visit him, He's in the bed and he's all bandaged up and everything. And we knew that he had lost a big chunk of his left arm. Or we see his withered ass stump of an arm. You know, we see his fucking just infection filled body falling apart. His face is heavily bandaged. He's wearing a golden mask when he goes to dinner. He takes the mask off and it's Two-Face.
It's
You know,
nasty. It's fucking
he's
nasty.
his right eye is completely gone. Uh, a big portion of his right cheek is completely gone, so you can see inside of his mouth when he's talking. And I wish they had given a shot of him like eating or drinking or something through that fucking mouth. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. That's a lot of fucking work though for a VFX department though, so I get why they didn't. He was
Dude,
an interesting character to watch. By the way, did you go and find out if he had a sickness before cutting his finger?
I'm pretty sure. I'm not. I didn't go back and check, but I will double check. But I'm pretty sure that they showed before the finger prick that he was actually being treated on his back for a spot in the first episode.
As I don't remember that at all. All I remember is them like focusing on the finger prick. Because I remember the shot. I remember how they filmed that shot. They were like, he cut his finger, looks at it, and then like that was it. And then
Dude,
it was like it started from his arm too.
Dude, the guy that plays Viserys, Paddy Considine, do you know what I've seen him in?
What's that?
He was in Hot Fuzz. He was one of the detectives known as the Andes.
No way.
Yes, way.
No way.
Yes, he was.
Oh, that's awesome. I know that he was in an interview recently and told them that George R.R. Martin messaged him and said, "You play Viserys better than I wrote him."
Yeah, he's done a phenomenal job. But I was looking at it and I was like, wait a minute. That's one of the Andes, isn't it? And I looked it up and sure enough, yeah, he was in Hot Fuzz.
That's funny. What was I going to say? Why can't I find him on IMDb? Where are you, Patty? What
It's
in
Paddy, not Patty.
Yeah, I know. I put in the woman's name.
It's short for Patrick.
Thanks, Maya. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I'm trying to think of what else to add to the episode. I mean, there's so much that happened. I know that the Corliss's family, the Valerians, there's going to be some fucking shit here real soon with them.
Yeah, because the granddaughters are being married off to Rhaenyra's sons.
We'll see how much peace that actually ends to the land, because like fucking Daemon killed her fucking son right in front of her face.
That wasn't her son.
I thought that was.
No, that was Corliss's brother.
Oh, that was
her brother-in-law.
I thought
she only had the two children. She had Laenor and Laena, and Laena was the one who died during childbirth when she got roasted by her dragon. And Laenor faked his own death and fled with Sir Carl to find happiness across the narrow sea.
There is Paddy Considine. He was also in At World's End.
Yeah.
I mean, that took me forever to fucking find him. Yeah, I just this show is really really well constructed. I think I said this a while back that my dad's never watched an episode of Game of Thrones. Never watched an episode, but he's really enjoying fucking House of the Dragon.
Has it made him want to actually watch Game of Thrones?
Not really.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, you can enjoy it as it is. You don't have to have the other 8 seasons of another show. Uh, and that's cool because even though they are tied together, it's still its own thing.
Yeah, yeah. There's enough context. Like it's a self-contained show. Like, does it help to know the Targaryen name a little bit? Does it help to know that they can not control dragons, but I guess
Pretty
control
much
dragons.
bond with them.
Yeah. But they're the only ones? Sure. But the show tells you that anyway. Like, it doesn't just hold that information from you. So, like, this, you can watch the show without watching Game of Thrones and still really enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
No reason to lose your head over it.
I see what you did there. You can
Yeah,
keep your tongue.
he can keep his tongue. That was just a cold-blooded fucking line. I loved it.
I'm pouring water for anyone curious. I'm like pissing
He's
into a bottle.
peeing in a bottle because we don't take breaks here.
Nope. What what grade would you give the episode?
A plus. It was phenomenal.
Samesies.
Fucking wonderful. Once again, we have been given a fabulous week of entertainment in all the things that we have watched. Stellar writing, stellar cinematography, stellar acting. Just fucking wonderful across the fucking board. And this show didn't let up either. So,
Yeah.
A fucking plus.
Wholeheartedly agree. I think Matt Smith is a fucking powerhouse when it comes to acting in any scene. Arguably every single fucking actor in this. The only one I would argue that is not the best, and it is the tiniest fucking, like, I shouldn't even be saying it really. It's so small. But the woman that does play the Valerian Queen right now, her husband was Corlys.
Oh, yeah.
She has a couple. Yeah, she has a couple moments in the show where I'm just like, "Ooh, that was a bit rough." But other than that,
yeah, she plays Renice. I can't think of the actress's name off the top of my head. I already closed my tab out.
Because that's the funny thing about her as an actress is that, like, 80% of the time she is fucking perfect, right? And then there's that 20% of the time where she's trying to act stoic, like, you know that there's some emotion behind her scene, but it's not coming through as well as I think she'd want.
Yeah.
Like, she's not delivering her lines just right. Because there's other actors that do the same thing in the show, but hers aren't as convincing. So, and she had that a couple times in this episode, but not enough for it to not to lose a grade. So,
yeah. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. She's still fucking great. Like, she's still phenomenal. I mean, shit, she's a fucking better actor than most, but still. But yeah, also A plus. So, yeah, don't skip out on this show because the ending of Game of Thrones was, like, left a sour taste in your mouth. Don't do that. You're missing out, and you're it's a detriment to you as an entertainment watcher.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and move on to Rings of Power.
Rings of Power, episode 7, also titled The Eye. The surviving villagers flee the burning Tir-Harad. Queen Muriel loses her eyesight after her and Isildur's friend, whose name escapes me for the moment, rescue some survivors from a burning building. It collapses and Isildur is presumed dead. But we know it's Isildur. He's not dead. He's just missing.
Yeah.
But Queen Muriel promises Galadriel more Númenórean support. Galadriel escorts a wounded Halbrand to Lindon for elvish medicine because he suffered a nasty wound in his torso. Elsewhere, Nori's caravan finds their destination grove has been destroyed by the eruption of Mount Doom. The stranger's attempt to mend a tree appears to fail, and he leaves. But the next day, the entire grove has regrown. While the Harfoots rejoice, they encounter a mysterious trio who are in search of the stranger. After a failed attempt by Nori to mislead them to another direction, the trio burns the Harfoot's caravan. Realizing the danger, they set off to warn the stranger. Meanwhile, in Khazad-dûm, Elrond offers a deal for the dwarvish mithril but King Durin III declines, saying that the Elven Age has ended. As Elrond departs, Prince Durin witnesses Mithril's ability to cure the Elven blight in a leaf. He brings Elrond back and begins to mine for the ore himself, and just as he strikes a large mithril vein, King Durin arrives. He banishes Elrond and strips Prince Durin of his royalty and seals the mithril mine, not really realizing that a Balrog has been awakened below. And then we see a clip
So cool.
of the Southland being renamed Mordor.
So fucking cool. This whole oh my god, everything about it.
The relationship with Elrond and Durin is fucking wonderful. Durin fucking sobbing like a baby when he's like, you've condemned my friend to death. He is drowning, and I'm just trying to reach out and save him, and you are condemning him to death. And that was just very emotional. I love to see that.
There's a really like because that's the thing, during this entire show has been for more or less the comic relief, right?
Yeah.
I love Durin to death. Like he's not even arguable. He is my favorite character the whole show. Like if Durin's not in an episode, I'm upset. Even though last week's was really good and it didn't have Durin. Or no, it did. The week where they had the battle in the Southlands.
That was last week.
Was that last week?
Yeah.
I thought there was no Durin. There was no Durin last week because of them. It was the week before when they had that big dinner, and Durin's like, "That's a sacred stone." So yeah, I love him to death. So the scene with him and his father, and like he takes off that thing around his neck,
crest, his crest. Yeah.
And he goes to pick it up, and King Durin's like, "Drop it. That's not yours anymore."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, that's so sad." But I fucking it's incredible. It's fucking incredible. And King Durin's gonna look like a fucking fool too here soon. Here real soon.
Yeah.
I also thought it was so fucking sad that the queen of the Numenorians, I don't remember her name, Muriel, like the second that she goes like, "Are we out of the smoke?" or something like that, are we beyond the smoke?
She says, "How much further to the camp?" And that's when Isildur's father, his name escapes me for the moment, Lindir.
Yeah.
He says it's just across the next rise. And when do we leave the smoke?
And when she said that, I looked at my dad and I went, "Oh, she's blind." And Dad goes, "How are you sure that she's blind?" And I was like, "Do you see how blankly she's staring into the distance and she's not looking directly at anybody when she speaks?"
Yep.
And he was like, "Oh shit, she is blind." And that's when Isildur's father figured that out. And I was like, "Told you, I fucking told you."
Yeah, he's like so a mile back. She's like, "Don't tell anybody yet." This show, it's so good, and I don't understand the hate from the purists. I really don't.
It's the same thing that you're always going to get with any kind of adaptation. I mean, that's all this is. It's hate from a certain group. Because let's be honest, even
a small group,
very small, yeah. Even people who love the Lord of the Rings books and the Silmarillion and the additional shit that his son wrote, like, they're enjoying the show, or they're speaking out how much they enjoy the show because they understand that it is not an adaptation of, or it's not a prequel to the books. It's a prequel to the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And that knowing that it's a prequel to the movies helps accept like the stuff that doesn't make sense to your preconceived notions. And for that, I commend them. I commend the show. I commend how enjoyable it is. There's some really intense moments when Galadriel and the boy, the fuck's his name? Theo are like in that fucking hole, and the orcs are just right above their head. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And I like how, she leaves her sword with him. It's like, You know, keep this, learn to use it. You're gonna need it essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
there's.
really, really well done episode. I mean, even more that these recaps, they're not running down scene for scene everything that happens. I mean, there's obviously a lot more that happens, but it gives you in a nutshell for the most part what happens. But there's a lot of things in detail that's left out, like his whole distraught search for his mother. When they injured her, uh, being transported back to the Numenorian camp. It was emotional. It was well done. Everything about the show has just been well done. But I'm on board with you. I absolutely love the relationship with Elrond and Durin.
I could watch a whole show with that.
Yeah, easily.
But yeah, let's go ahead and give it a grade and wrap it up. What do you give it?
Oh, also an A+. Like, fuck, everything was stellar this week, and this
Oh,
one
yeah.
was no different. It is really, really good. I can't wait until tomorrow's episode to watch it in the morning.
It's the finale, right?
Yes,
Yeah, I thought so.
the season finale tomorrow morning. Oh man, that's crazy. And I wonder how it's going to go down. I'm curious, and it's going to leave us on a cliffhanger.
I'll just help it out here and say that I mirror your entire sentiment. A+ to the show, and I'm also very like after work tomorrow, I'm gonna be like, all right, Dad, Game of Thrones finale. Oh, not Game of Thrones. Wow, sorry. Wow, Greg. Jesus, Rings of Power finale. I can't wait. It's gonna be great.
Hell yeah. Well, all right, that does
Yeah.
it for those.
Yeah, that's well, next week, like that's gonna do it for us this week. Blah blah blah. You know how this goes, everybody. Next week we're gonna be doing the Rings of Power finale. Very excited. Episode 9 of House of the Dragon, which I think we have
2 more episodes of
2 more. Yeah, it goes 11 total.
10.
Is it 10? I thought it was 11. Anyway.
Yeah, 8 of Rings of Power, 10 of House of the Dragon, and 12 of Andor, which will be on episode 7 of Andor.
Yes, yeah. So Rings of Power, House of the Dragon, Andor, the new episodes, yada yada yada. We will be doing, because I know that if you're a longtime listener to the podcast, every year we do Mike Flanagan's new show. So I think not next week, but the following week we're gonna watch that, since we'll only have 2 episodes of a show to watch, and then we can do Midnight Club as well, because we got to. It's Mike Flanagan. That being said, make sure you follow us on all socials listed below. That's where you'll find if we add anything to the show, which I doubt we will. But yeah, go ahead and follow those. Check out the Teespring store if you're looking for merch or something. It's getting chilly outside, so there's a lot of fall and winter gear on the Teespring store with our cartoon faces on it. Also, if you do decide to buy something and you want to show off the picture, let us know. We'll give you a thanks. And if you want, we'll share your picture and mention it on the podcast. And all proceeds from that go directly into the podcast. So let's see. If you want to watch today's podcast live, the video version, you can check that out on the YouTube channel. I should be editing and uploading some clips from us doing Jackbox the past 2 weeks. I meant to do that for the last week, but whatever. Speaking of that, also follow twitch.tv/ChubRockGeek, because Maya and I have been doing Jackbox streams every once a week. Last night was a little shorter, but there was reasons behind that. This upcoming week on the 20th, when Jackbox Party Pack 9 comes out, we'll probably be doing a little bit longer of a stream. But that's also because we get to go back to recording on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin Feige and She-Hulk. Thanks for a great show, really. That's ultimately what but yeah. So we're going to be doing that October 20th around 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Twitch.tv/ChubRuckGeek. That's it for my notes. Maya, where can folks find you?
You can find me on Facebook under my name, Maya Dawn Fisher. It's a public profile, and it's linked to both my Twitter and Instagram accounts, so it's your one-stop shop for everything I'm up to. And what about you, Greg? Where can people find you?
You can follow me on ChubRuckGeek on all socials. I usually say like, "Oh, I'm doing solo reviews for the YouTube channel," but I'm probably not going to be doing those much anymore. I just don't have the fucking not willpower, but not desire either. I don't know. There's something there. Anyway, I might do one. Who knows?
Lack of motivation.
A little bit, yeah. Because I just got other things going on that I'd rather do. That's all. That's really all that is. But yeah, that's it. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Remember, Rings of Power, House of the Dragon, Andor. That's what we're reviewing next week. Also, fuck the GOP, fuck the NRA, wholeheartedly. Donate and help where you can. People need help, especially in Florida. There's ways to donate to help those people as well. We'll see you next week.
Take care, everybody.